The great hall of the Galactic Assembly stretched for miles in every direction. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy gathered in floating platforms that moved slowly through the air. Some delegates had scales that changed color with their moods. Others were made of living crystal that sang when they spoke. A few were clouds of gas held together by energy fields. Sarah Chen stood at the human platform and tried not to feel small. She was tall for a human, with short black hair and dark eyes that missed nothing. Behind her stood 12 other humans, all wearing simple blue uniforms. They looked plain next to the other delegates with their bright colors and strange shapes. The assembly had been running for over 3,000 years. Every species that joined found their place in the great system. The Zalathi grew food on 17 different star systems. Their green skin could take energy from any type of sun. The Vorthak were living computers made of crystal. They could think faster than any machine. The Mistral were beings of pure energy who helped solve fights between other species. Everyone had a job. Everyone had a purpose. And today, the humans would get theirs. Ambassador Chen had spent 6 months learning about the assembly. She had read every law and every rule. She knew which species made the best traders and which ones were the strongest fighters. But she also knew something else. She knew that every new species that joined got the jobs nobody else wanted. The speaker of the assembly floated above them all. It was a Vorthak, its crystal body flashing blue and white as it spoke. Its voice came from speakers built into the walls. "Today we welcome our newest members," the speaker said. "The humans of Earth have finally learned to travel between stars. They have shown they can work with others. They have passed all our tests. Now they will take their place among us." Cheers came from around the hall, but Chen noticed they were not very loud. Most species clapped in a polite way, like parents watching a child take its first steps. Some of the older delegates looked bored. A few were checking their data tablets. The Karathi delegate spoke first. He was tall and thin with purple skin and 4 arms. "The humans have shown great progress," he said. His voice was kind but sounded like he was talking to children. In just 200 years, they went from simple tools to space travel. Very impressive for such a young race. Chen kept her face calm, but inside she felt a spark of anger. Young race. They always said that. As if being new to space travel meant they were new to everything. The Zalathi delegate was next. She was short and round with green skin and big yellow eyes. "We have watched the humans fight many wars on their planet," she said. "They seem to enjoy conflict. This makes them hard to trust with important jobs." Other delegates nodded. Chen had heard this before. The galaxy saw Earth's history of wars and decided humans were violent by nature. They never asked why humans fought so much. They never tried to understand. The Mistral delegate spoke without a body, just a voice from a ball of light. "But every species can find peace," it said. "The humans just need time to learn. We will help them grow past their violent ways." Chen wanted to laugh. These beings thought they understood humans after watching from space for a few years. They saw the wars but missed everything else. They saw the fighting but not the reasons behind it. The speaker's crystal body flashed bright white. "The assembly has decided," it announced. "The humans will handle waste management and dangerous materials across our outer systems. This job fits their nature. They are used to dealing with hostile conditions. They do not mind taking risks that other species would avoid." The hall was quiet for a moment. Then the Karathi delegate started clapping. Others joined in. It was polite applause, the kind given when someone gets a participation award. Chen felt the anger grow stronger inside her chest. Waste management, garbage collection for the galaxy. They were giving humans the jobs that nobody else wanted to do. But she had expected this. Every species that joined the assembly got treated the same way at first. The difference was that most species accepted it. They were happy just to be part of something bigger. They took their small role and tried to do it well. Humans were different. Chen stood up to speak. The hall became quiet. All eyes turned to the human platform. "We thank the assembly for this opportunity," she said. Her voice was calm and clear. "We will do our best in whatever role you give us." The other delegates smiled and nodded. They liked this response. It showed that humans could be humble. It proved they could follow rules. But some of the older delegates noticed something in Chen's eyes. A patience that seemed strange for a species everyone called aggressive. A calmness that did not match their reputation for being reckless. The speaker flashed blue. "Excellent. The humans will start their duties next month. Welcome to the Galactic Assembly. More applause filled the hall. Delegates began to float away to their next meetings. Some stopped to shake hands with the human delegation or offer congratulations. Everyone was polite and friendly. Chen smiled and thanked them all. She acted like a grateful new member should act, but inside her mind, she was thinking about other things. She thought about the waste management job they had been given. Dangerous materials across outer systems. The assembly thought this was a punishment disguised as a duty. They thought humans would be stuck handling garbage far from the important worlds. They did not understand that this job would put humans everywhere. Every system, every station, every outpost, humans would see how the galaxy really worked. They would learn who needed what and when. They would build relationships with beings the assembly ignored. Chen also thought about her team. The other 12 humans on the platform were not just diplomats. Commander Torres had fought in 3 wars and could plan battles in her sleep. Dr. Kim could hack any computer system ever built. Engineer Martinez could fix anything or build weapons from scrap metal. The assembly saw them as simple waste collectors. Chen saw them as the advanced team for humanity's real mission. As the hall emptied, Chen looked around one last time. She memorized the layout and the security systems. She noted which species sat where and who talked to whom. She watched how the platforms moved and where the exits were located. Then she gathered her papers and followed her team toward the exit. Behind them, a few delegates were still talking. "They seem nice enough," one said. "Yes, but I worry about their aggressive tendencies," said another. "Give them time," said a third. "All young races learn to be civilized eventually." Chen heard every word. She kept walking and kept smiling. But in her mind, she was already planning. The galaxy thought they had contained humanity. They thought they had given humans a small, safe job that would keep them busy and out of the way. They were about to learn how wrong they were. As the human delegation left the Great Hall, none of the other species noticed the way they moved. They walked like soldiers, even in their diplomatic clothes. They watched everything and missed nothing. They communicated with tiny gestures and shared looks. The galaxy had just invited a predator species to join their peaceful community. They had given that species access to every system and every weakness, and they had done it thinking they were being generous. 6 months had passed since the humans joined the assembly. Sarah Chen stood in her small office on Station Omega, looking at reports from waste management teams across the galaxy. On paper, everything looked normal. Humans were doing their job, cleaning up dangerous materials and toxic waste from the outer systems. But Chen was reading between the lines. Her teams were not just collecting garbage. They were learning. Every planet they visited, every station they cleaned, every outpost they serviced, humans were mapping the galaxy's real infrastructure. They knew which systems had weak defenses and which ones had hidden weapons. They understood trade routes better than some species that had been using them for centuries. The work was perfect cover. Nobody paid attention to waste collectors. Nobody asked questions when human ships showed up to haul away radioactive materials or clean up industrial accidents. The humans were becoming invisible, and invisible people learned the most interesting secrets. Chen's data tablet beeped with an urgent message. She read it quickly, then read it again. Her face went pale. The message was from Captain Stevens, commanding the human waste ship Recycler 7 in the Corven system. But this was not about garbage collection. "Ambassador," the message read, "you need to see this. The Corven system is under attack. Pirates have blockaded 3 planets. They are killing civilians and the assembly fleet is just watching. Request permission to help." Chen called up the news feeds from Corven space. What she saw made her sick. The Corven were a peaceful species. They looked like large otters with silver fur and big dark eyes. They had never fought a war in their entire history. Their 3 worlds were known for their beautiful art and their skill at making musical instruments. Now their cities were burning. The pirates had come from nowhere 3 days ago. They were not from any single species. Instead, they were outlaws and criminals from a dozen different worlds. They flew stolen military ships with weapons that could pass right through normal shields. The pirates had sent a simple message to the Corven worlds: "Pay us tribute or we will kill everyone on your planets." The Corven had asked the assembly for help. The assembly had sent a fleet, but that fleet was now sitting outside the star system doing nothing. The ships were there, but they were not fighting. Chen switched to the assembly emergency channel. She listened to the debate that had been going on for 3 days. "We cannot risk a direct attack," said Admiral Corseth, a Kythera with bright red skin and too many teeth. "The pirates have new weapons. If we attack them, they might destroy the Corven cities out of spite." "We should try economic pressure," suggested Delegate Vorth, a crystal being whose voice sounded like singing. "Cut off their supply lines. Make them surrender through starvation." "That will take months," said another voice. "The Corven people will be dead by then." "We need to study their weapons first," said a Zalati scientist. "Understand how they work. Then we can develop countermeasures." "That will take years," someone else pointed out. The debate went in circles. Every idea was met with objections. Every solution was considered too risky or too slow or too expensive. Meanwhile, the pirates were broadcasting videos of Corven civilians being murdered to pressure the planets into paying tribute. Chen had heard enough. She opened a direct channel to the Assembly Fleet Command. "Admiral Corseth, this is Ambassador Chen of Earth. I request permission for human ships to assist in the rescue operation." There was a long pause. Then Admiral Corseth's image appeared on Chen's screen. His red skin looked darker than usual, which meant he was angry or stressed. "Ambassador," he said in a careful voice, "this is a military situation. Your people are waste management specialists. You do not have experience with combat operations." "My people have been studying the situation," Chen said. "We have ideas that might help," another voice cut in. It was Delegate Markoth, a Zalati whose green skin was flashing yellow with amusement. "Ideas?" Markoth laughed. "You have been in space for less than a year. What could you possibly know about military tactics that we have not already considered?" Other delegates joined the conversation. Most of them were polite, but Chen could hear the condescending tone in their voices. "The humans mean well," said Delegate Yathara, a Mistral whose energy field pulsed pink with sympathy. "But this situation requires experience and wisdom. Perhaps they should observe and learn. The pirates have technology we do not understand," added Captain Veltar, a Kythera military officer. "This is not a job for beginners." Chen felt the familiar anger building in her chest. They were treating her like a child who wanted to help with adult problems. "We know these weapons," Chen said quietly. The channel went silent. "Explain," Admiral Corseth demanded. "The pirates are using phase variance weapons," Chen said. "They shift the frequency of their energy beams to pass through shield harmonics. It is an old human theoretical design from our pre-space military research." More silence. Then someone started typing quickly, probably looking up human military history. "How do you counter such weapons?" Admiral Corseth asked. "You rotate your shield frequencies faster than they can compensate," Chen said. "Or you use projectile weapons instead of energy weapons. Or you target their power sources instead of fighting them directly." "These are interesting ideas," admitted Captain Veltar. "But theory is different from practice. The risk is too great." Chen looked at her screen showing the burning Corven cities. Somewhere down there, families were hiding in basements while pirates hunted them for sport. "Admiral, I formally request permission for human ships to join the rescue operation." "Request denied," Admiral Corseth said immediately. "I second the denial," said Delegate Markoth. "The humans are too inexperienced for such a delicate operation. They would probably make the situation worse with their violent tendencies." Other voices joined in agreement. The vote was quick and decisive. 743 delegates voted to deny human involvement. Only 8 voted to allow it. Species that had been dismissed by the Assembly themselves in the past. Chen listened to the vote count in perfect silence. Behind her, the other humans in the room watched her face carefully. Commander Torres had her hand resting on her sidearm. Dr. Kim was already pulling up tactical data on his tablet. Engineer Martinez was calculating weapon loads and fuel requirements. They were all waiting for Chen's decision. On the screen, Delegate Markoth was still talking. "The humans need to learn patience," he said. "Military action is not the solution to every problem. Perhaps they should focus on their waste management duties and leave the fighting to those with more experience." Chen felt something cold and hard settle in her chest. She had tried to do this the right way. She had asked for permission. She had offered to help. She had followed all the proper procedures, and in response they had laughed at her. She stood up slowly and gathered her papers with deliberate care. The humans in the room stood with her, moving in perfect synchronization. "Admiral," Chen said in a calm, clear voice, "thank you for your time." Admiral Corseth looked surprised. "You are welcome, Ambassador. I'm sure you understand our position." Chen looked directly into the camera. Her dark eyes seemed to look through the screen and into the souls of everyone watching. "I understand perfectly," she said. Then she spoke 4 words that would be remembered forever. "Then we'll do better." She cut the connection. The room was quiet for a moment. Then Commander Torres spoke. "Orders, ma'am?" Chen looked at the tactical display showing Corven space. 3 planets under siege, millions of innocent people being murdered while the galaxy's protectors held meetings. "Signal all human ships in the sector," she said. "We have civilians to save." Dr. Kim looked up from his tablet. "Ma'am, the Assembly will call this an act of war." Chen smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Let them." 12 human ships moved through space toward the Corven system. They were not warships. They were waste management vessels, cargo haulers, and maintenance craft. The largest was barely the size of a Kithara patrol boat. The smallest was just a modified garbage scow, but every ship carried human crew. And that made all the difference. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge of the Terra's Pride, the closest thing humans had to a military vessel in the sector. Around her, 15 crew members worked at stations that had been quietly modified over the past 6 months. The waste management computers had been upgraded with military-grade sensors. The cargo holds now contained equipment that had nothing to do with garbage collection. The communication arrays could hack into most alien systems. "Signal from Ambassador Chen," reported Lieutenant Park, the communications officer. "We have full authority to act as we see fit." Santos nodded. She had expected that. Chen was giving them permission to do what humans did best: improvise, adapt, and overcome. "Status report," Santos ordered. 12 ships, total crew of 137, said Commander Blake, her second in command. "We have enough firepower to maybe scratch a real warship. We have no heavy armor, no military shields, and no backup." "What do we have?" Santos asked. Blake smiled. It was not a nice smile. "We have surprise superior tactics and 6 months of intelligence gathering. Plus the pirates think we're garbage collectors." The tactical display showed Corven space. 3 planets hung in the star's light like jewels. Around them 30 pirate ships formed a loose blockade. Further out, the assembly fleet waited and watched. Santos studied the display. The pirates had positioned their ships to control all the major space lanes. Any rescue ships would have to fight through their formation. It was a simple but effective strategy. Too bad the pirates were not fighting humans. "Analysis?" Santos asked her tactical officer, Lieutenant Chen, no relation to the ambassador, pulled up detailed scans. "The pirates are using a mix of stolen ships from different species. Kithara destroyers, Vorthak cruisers, some Zalathi fast attack craft. No unified command structure. Each ship seems to be operating independently. Weapons? Phase variance weapons on most ships. Some conventional energy beams. Projectile weapons on the older vessels. They have enough firepower to level cities, but their ships are not designed to work together." Santos nodded. That was the key weakness she had hoped to find. The pirates had powerful individual ships, but they were not a real fleet. They were a gang of criminals who happened to be in space. "Communication patterns? Standard commercial frequencies," reported Lieutenant Park. "No encryption worth mentioning. They are not even using military communication protocols." "Morale?" Dr. Lisa Wong, the expedition psychologist, spoke up from her station. "Based on intercepted communications, morale is mixed. Some crews are eager to collect tribute and leave. Others are enjoying the violence and want to stay longer. There are signs of disagreement about how long to maintain the blockade." Santos felt a plan forming in her mind. It was not the kind of plan the assembly would use. They would try to negotiate or bring overwhelming force to bear. They would follow rules of engagement and worry about collateral damage. Humans would do something different. "All ships, this is Terra's Pride," Santos broadcast to the human fleet. "We are going to end this blockade in 72 hours. Here is how we do it." The plan she outlined would have horrified the assembly commanders. It involved deception, psychological warfare, and tactics that no civilized species would consider. But it was perfectly legal under human military doctrine. Humans had learned to fight by fighting each other for thousands of years. They had developed strategies that other species had never imagined because other species had never needed them. Phase 1 began immediately. Instead of attacking the pirate fleet, the human ships scattered across the system. They looked like they were running away. The pirates laughed at the retreating humans. Some fired a few shots, but the human ships were already out of range. Within hours, the humans had disappeared completely. The assembly fleet watched in confusion. Admiral Corseth sent angry messages demanding to know what the humans thought they were doing. But on Corven 3, something interesting started happening. The planet's communication networks, which had been jammed by the pirates for days, suddenly came back online. Messages began flowing between cities. Families separated by the blockade could talk to each other again. The pirates did not understand how this was possible. Their jamming equipment was still working, but somehow the signals were getting through. What they did not know was that Dr. Kim and his technical team had spent 6 months studying galactic communication systems. They knew exactly how the jamming worked and how to get around it. Phase 2 started the next day. The pirates began receiving strange reports from their scouts. Supply ships that should have arrived were missing. Fuel depots in nearby systems were mysteriously empty. Communication relays were failing across 3 sectors. The pirates were not being attacked directly. Instead, their entire support network was quietly falling apart. Captain Reith, the pirate leader, was a Kythera who had been thrown out of the assembly military for brutality. He commanded his fleet from a stolen dreadnought that could have destroyed any single human ship with one shot. But Reith was starting to get worried. His ships needed fuel and ammunition to maintain the blockade. His crews needed food and medical supplies, and all of those things were becoming harder to find. "Where are the supply ships?" he demanded of his lieutenant. "Unknown, Captain," the lieutenant replied nervously. "The last 3 convoys never reached their destinations. No distress signals, no wreckage. They just disappeared." Reith snarled, showing too many sharp teeth. "Find them." But his scouts could not find anything. The missing ships had simply vanished. What Reith did not know was that human teams were conducting precision raids across the sector. They were not destroying the supply convoys. They were capturing them intact and hiding them in empty systems. Commander Torres led these raids personally. Her teams moved like ghosts, striking supply depots and communication stations with surgical precision. They left no evidence behind except empty storage facilities. Meanwhile, Dr. Wong was conducting Phase 3 of the operation. She had hacked into the pirate communication network and was sending carefully crafted messages designed to increase paranoia and distrust. Why did Captain Vexitar get more ammunition than the rest of us? One message read, "I heard some crews are planning to take the tribute and run," said another. "The humans are still out there somewhere," read a third. "What if they are watching us right now?" These messages were sent anonymously, appearing to come from within the pirate fleet itself. Soon the pirates were arguing among themselves. Some wanted to leave immediately. Others wanted to squeeze more tribute from the Corven worlds. A few started accusing each other of planning betrayal. By the end of the second day, 3 pirate ships had left the system entirely. 5 more had moved out of formation to protect themselves from their own allies. The blockade was starting to fall apart. On the 3rd day, Phase 4 began. The human ships reappeared, but not where anyone expected them. They came from inside the Corven system, moving outward from the planets themselves. Somehow they had infiltrated past the entire pirate fleet without being detected. "Impossible," Admiral Corseth muttered from his command ship. "How did they get past our sensors?" The answer was simple. The humans had not tried to sneak past the sensors. Instead, they had used the planet's own magnetic fields and radiation to mask their approach. It was a technique that worked because no other species had ever tried it. The first pirate ship to die never saw its attacker coming. The Terra's Pride appeared out of the shadow of Corven 2's largest moon and fired a spread of missiles at point-blank range. The pirate ship's shields were down because it was conducting a routine patrol, far from any threat. The explosion lit up the local space like a small sun. Before the other pirates could react, 4 more human ships struck different targets. They did not stay to fight. Instead, they hit fast and disappeared back into the sensor shadows around the planets. The pirate fleet tried to respond, but they were spread out and disorganized. Some ships moved to defend against the human attacks. Others stayed in position to maintain the blockade. A few tried to chase the attackers. This was exactly what Santos had wanted. The pirate formation was broken. Instead of a unified fleet, they were now 30 individual ships trying to fight an enemy they could not find. The humans struck again and again, always from unexpected directions. They used the planets, the moons, the asteroid fields, and the stars' own radiation to hide their movements. They fought like pirates themselves, but with discipline and coordination that the real pirates lacked. By the end of the third day, half the pirate fleet was gone. Some ships had been destroyed. Others had been captured by human boarding teams. Many had simply run away when their crews lost their nerve. Captain Reith found himself commanding only 12 ships, and those crews were talking about surrender. The Corven system was free. The humans had done in 72 hours what the assembly fleet had declared impossible, but the galaxy was not celebrating. They were terrified. The humans had not just won a battle. They had shown that everything the galaxy thought about warfare was wrong. The emergency session of the Galactic Assembly had been going on for 18 hours. Delegates from 800 species filled the Great Hall, their voices creating a noise like an ocean storm. Fear hung in the air like smoke. Sarah Chen sat in the human section, watching the chaos with calm eyes. She had been called before the assembly to explain what had happened at Corven. The other delegates wanted answers. They needed to understand how a primitive species had done what their combined fleets could not. Speaker Velthera, the crystal Vorthak who led the assembly, flashed bright red to demand silence. Slowly, the noise died down. The investigation committee has finished their report, the speaker announced. We now understand what happened at Corven. The results are disturbing. Admiral Corseth stood to present the findings. His red skin looked pale, and his usually confident voice shook slightly. The human fleet achieved total victory using tactics we have never seen before, he began. They did not defeat the pirates through superior firepower. Instead, they used psychological warfare, deception, and asymmetric attacks that no civilized species has ever attempted. Murmurs of concern rippled through the hall. The Admiral continued. More troubling is how they gathered intelligence. In 6 months of waste management duties, human teams visited over 3,000 locations across the galaxy. They mapped our infrastructure, studied our defenses, and learned our weaknesses. They turned their assignment into a galaxy-wide reconnaissance mission. Delegate Markoth, the green-skinned Zalathi who had laughed at human military ideas, was not laughing now. Are you saying they were spying on us? Not spying, Admiral Corseth said carefully. Studying, learning, preparing. Every system they visited for waste collection they also analyzed for strategic value. Every species they met they evaluated for military capabilities. They were mapping the galaxy like generals planning a campaign. The hall erupted in angry voices. Some delegates demanded to know if humans had violated any laws. Others wanted to know if Earth posed a threat to galactic security. Speaker Velthera flashed red again for silence. There is more. Admiral, please continue. Admiral Corseth pulled up a holographic display showing human military history. Our scientists have studied Earth's past in detail. What we found explains everything. The display showed scenes from human history, armies marching, ships sailing across oceans, aircraft fighting in the sky. To most galactic species, it looked like endless, senseless violence. Every species in the galaxy evolved with natural predators, the Admiral explained. We learned to fight our environment to survive. The Kithra fought ice ages, the Zalathi fought plant diseases, the Vorthak fought geological instability. He paused, letting this sink in. Humans are different. They had no major environmental threats, no natural predators, no disasters that required their entire species to work together. Instead, they competed with each other. The display changed to show human wars throughout history. Tribe fighting tribe, nation fighting nation, ideology fighting ideology. For millions of years, humans were their own primary threat. They evolved by fighting themselves. Their brains are wired for conflict in ways we cannot understand. Dr. Yathara, a Mistral energy being, spoke from her ball of light. But surely they learned to be peaceful as they advanced. All species grow beyond their primitive nature. Admiral Corseth's expression was grim. They did learn to be peaceful, but not by abandoning conflict. By becoming better at it. The display showed human military evolution. Stone weapons became bronze, then iron, then steel. Swords became guns, then missiles, then weapons that could destroy planets. Look at their approach to warfare, the Admiral said. Other species fight to defend territory or resources. Humans fight to eliminate future threats. They do not just defeat enemies. They study them, understand them, and develop ways to defeat similar enemies in the future. He highlighted human military academies and war colleges. They build schools dedicated to studying conflict. They write books about strategy. They analyze every battle their ancestors fought and learn from every mistake. The hall was silent now. Every delegate was staring at the display in growing horror. They turned warfare into a science, Admiral Corseth continued. No other species has done this because no other species needed to. We fought to survive. Humans fought to win. Dr. Lindar, a peaceful Corven who had survived the recent pirate attack, spoke in a quiet voice. But they saved our people. They were gentle with our civilians. They did not hurt anyone who was not a threat. That makes them more dangerous, not less, the Admiral replied. They have learned to be surgical in their violence. They can destroy their enemies while protecting innocents. This is not natural aggressive behavior. This is trained, disciplined warfare refined over millions of years. Delegate Softel, a wise old Vorthak, asked the question everyone was thinking. What does this mean for the galaxy? Admiral Corseth looked directly at Sarah Chen before answering. It means we have invited a predator species into our peaceful community. We gave them access to every system and every weakness, and we did it thinking we were being generous. The hall erupted again. Some delegates demanded that humans be expelled from the assembly. Others wanted Earth quarantined. A few wise voices suggested that maybe the galaxy needed what humans offered. Chen had listened to it all in silence. Now she stood up to speak. The hall became quiet. But it was not the respectful quiet she had received 6 months ago. Now it was the silence of prey animals watching a predator. You are right about us, she said in a calm, clear voice. We are different from every other species in the galaxy. We evolved as persistence hunters and cooperative competitors. We learned to work together by fighting each other. She gestured toward the display still showing human military history. Every war taught us something new. Every conflict made us better at solving problems through force when necessary. We did not choose to be warriors. We became warriors to survive ourselves. Delegate Markoth stood up, his green skin flashing yellow with fear. Then you admit you are a threat to galactic peace. Chen looked at him with those dark, patient eyes that made so many delegates nervous. We are a threat to anyone who threatens innocent people. We proved that at Corven. You violated assembly protocols, shouted another delegate. You acted without authorization. We acted when action was needed, Chen replied. While you debated, people were dying. We stopped that. Speaker Velthara flashed orange, a color none of the delegates had seen before. The question is what happens now. The humans have shown capabilities that make them dangerous to the established order. They cannot be allowed to operate without oversight. Chen felt the familiar anger building in her chest, but her voice remained calm. You want to control us because we make you uncomfortable. You want to contain us because we solve problems differently than you do. Your methods are too violent, protested Dr. Yathara. Our methods are effective, Chen corrected. The Corven people are alive because we use them. Admiral Corseth spoke again. The issue is not violence. The issue is predictability. We understand how other species think and act. We cannot predict how humans will respond to future crises. Chen smiled, and there was something cold in that smile. You could not predict how we would respond to this crisis either. Yet somehow the galaxy survived. She looked around the hall, meeting the eyes of delegates from dozens of species. You study us like we are animals in a zoo. You analyze our history and declare us dangerous because we are different. But you never ask the important question, which is, Speaker Velthara asked, whether your way of doing things is actually working. The hall was silent again. This time the silence was uncomfortable. Chen continued. In 3,000 years of assembly rule, how many species have suffered while you debated solutions? How many crises have grown worse while you followed proper procedures? How many people have died while you held committee meetings? She gestured toward the Corven delegate. Dr. Lindar's people were being murdered while your fleet watched and did nothing. You had the ships and the weapons to stop it, but not the will to act. You were more concerned with protocol than with saving lives. Delegate Markoth's skin flashed angry red. The Assembly has maintained peace for 3 millennia. You have maintained the absence of large wars, Chen corrected. But you have not prevented smaller conflicts. You have not stopped pirates and criminals. You have not protected the weak from the strong. You have just made sure that your own powerful species stay comfortable. The accusation hit home. Several delegates looked uncomfortable. The assembly did tend to favor older, more established species over newer ones. Chen pressed her advantage. You gave humans waste management duties because you thought we were too dangerous for important work. But that job showed us how the galaxy really works. We saw which systems get protection and which ones do not. We learned who matters and who gets ignored. She paused to let that sink in. The Corven matter because they make beautiful art that rich species enjoy buying. But what about the mining colonies on the rim worlds? What about the agricultural settlements that feed your cities? When pirates attack them, does the assembly fleet come running? The silence was her answer. Chen nodded. The assembly hall had been in chaos for 3 days. Delegates argued in small groups. Some species called for emergency meetings. Others threatened to leave if humans were not expelled. A few quietly sent messages to Earth asking about trade agreements. Sarah Chen watched it all from the human section. She had said what needed to be said. Now the galaxy had to decide what to do about it. Speaker Velthara flashed red for attention. The Assembly will vote on Resolution 847 Alpha, she announced. All humans will be expelled from galactic space. Earth will be quarantined. No species will be permitted contact with humanity. The vote was closer than Chen had expected. 412 species voted to expel humanity. 335 voted against. The resolution passed. But then something interesting happened. Delegate Lindar, the peaceful Corven whose people humans had saved, stood up. The Corven Republic withdraws from the Galactic Assembly, he said quietly. Gasps echoed through the hall. No species had ever left the Assembly voluntarily. Our people are alive because humans acted when the Assembly would not, Lindar continued. We choose to stand with those who protect innocent lives. He gathered his papers and walked toward the exit. As he passed the human section, he stopped and bowed to Chen. Thank you for showing us that there is a better way. Then he left. For a moment, the hall was silent. Then Delegate Corthwin of the Talix Confederation stood up. The Talix also withdraw from the Assembly, he announced. The Talix were a warrior species that had always felt constrained by Assembly politics. Their delegate's scarred face showed satisfaction as he followed Lindar out of the hall. Then Delegate Yilseth of the Outer Rim Colonies stood. The Rim Colonies withdraw as well. More delegates began standing. Not many, but enough to matter. The Mining Guild, the Independent Traders Association, 3 separate farming worlds, 2 research colonies. All of them were species that the Assembly barely noticed unless they needed something. All of them had asked for help at some point and been told to wait for proper procedures. Within an hour, 47 species had withdrawn from the Assembly. Most were small and politically unimportant, but they represented millions of people across hundreds of star systems. As the last delegate walked out, Speaker Velthara flashed a color none of them had seen before, a deep purple that indicated complete confusion. Chen stood up slowly. The remaining delegates watched her with a mix of fear and curiosity. The human delegation also withdraws from the Galactic Assembly, she said formally. Then she did something that shocked everyone. She smiled. But we want you to know that Earth remains committed to helping any species that requests our assistance. We will continue to protect those who cannot protect themselves. We will respond to emergencies while others debate proper procedures. She paused to look around the hall one last time. The galaxy is a dangerous place. Pirates, criminals, and worse things lurk in the dark between stars. You can face these threats with committees and debate, or you can face them with people willing to act. She gathered her papers with the same deliberate calm she had shown 6 months ago. The choice is yours. Then she walked out, followed by her delegation. Behind them, the greatest political institution in galactic history began to tear itself apart. 6 months later, Sarah Chen stood in the command center of New Geneva Station, humanity's first major space installation outside the solar system. The station hung in neutral space between the old assembly territory and the new human protection zone. Through the observation windows, she could see ships from dozens of species coming and going. Corven art ships brought beautiful sculptures to trade for human protection services. Talix warriors learned human tactics in exchange for sharing their combat experience. Rim colonists brought raw materials in return for human-built defenses. Status report, Chen requested from her chief of staff. Commander Torres pulled up the daily briefings. 37 new membership requests this week, she reported. The Colonial Defense League now includes 93 species across 200 star systems. Problems? The usual. Pirates testing our perimeter defenses. The assembly claiming we are destabilizing the galaxy. 3 new species asking if they can send military observers to study human tactics. Chen nodded. It was the same every week. The galaxy was slowly splitting into 2 camps. Those who wanted assembly stability and those who wanted human effectiveness. Any word from the assembly? Admiral Korseth has been asking for a meeting. I think they are starting to realize they made a mistake. Chen was not surprised. The assembly was discovering what happened when you removed the galaxy's most effective problem solvers from your organization. Small conflicts were lasting longer. Pirates were getting bolder. Criminal organizations were expanding into areas the assembly could not effectively patrol. Meanwhile, the human protection zone was becoming known as the safest region of space. Human fleets responded to emergencies within hours instead of weeks. Human diplomats solved disputes with practical solutions instead of endless debates. Human engineers built defenses that actually worked. What about Earth? Chen asked. The homeworld is doing well, Torres reported. The shipyards are running at full capacity. The military academies are training officers from 20 different species. And the council is asking when you plan to come home. Chen smiled. Tell them I am home. This is where humanity needs to be right now. She looked out at the ships moving past the station. Each one represented a species that had chosen human protection over assembly bureaucracy. Each crew had decided that effective action was better than proper procedures. Incoming message from the Zalathi delegation, Torres announced. Chen was surprised. The Zalathi had been among the loudest voices calling for human expulsion. Put them through. The screen showed Delegate Markoth, the same green-skinned Zalathi who had laughed at human military capabilities a year ago. He looked older and more tired than Chen remembered. Ambassador Chen, he said formally, the Zalathi Republic requests a private meeting to discuss possible cooperation. Chen kept her expression neutral. What kind of cooperation? The assembly is facing challenges that our traditional methods cannot address, Markoth admitted. We need advisors with experience in unconventional problem solving. Translation: they needed humans to clean up messes that assembly politics could not handle. I will consider your request, Chen replied diplomatically. After the connection ended, Torres looked at her questioningly. Are we going to help them? Chen thought about it for a moment. The assembly had expelled humanity for being too different, too dangerous, too effective. Now they wanted human help because they were discovering that different, dangerous, and effective might be exactly what the galaxy needed. Schedule a meeting, she decided, but not on their terms. If they want human assistance, they come here. They ask properly, and they accept that we do things our way, Torres smiled. Should I remind them that our way might make them uncomfortable? Oh, I think they have already figured that out. Chen looked back out at the ships moving through space. The galaxy had watched in horror as humans stormed out of the assembly. They had been afraid of human methods, human unpredictability, human competence. But fear was turning into respect. And respect was becoming trust. The old galaxy had been peaceful but stagnant. The new galaxy would be more dangerous but also more dynamic. There would be conflicts and crises, but there would also be solutions. Human solutions. Chen's communicator beeped with another message. This one was from Earth's High Council. Ambassador, the message read, congratulations on the first anniversary of your departure from the assembly. Current status: 47 species under human protection, 0 successful pirate attacks in our territory, and declining crime rates across all human protection zone systems. Keep up the good work. She smiled and closed the message. Through the window, she watched a Corven art ship dock next to a Talax destroyer. 2 species that had never spoken before the assembly crisis were now working together under human coordination. Maybe the galaxy had needed to watch in horror for a while. Maybe they had needed to see what humans could accomplish when they stopped being contained and started being themselves. The assembly still existed, still debated, still held committee meetings. But now they had competition. They had an example of what government could be when it focused on results instead of procedures. And if that made them uncomfortable, well, humans had learned long ago that comfort was the enemy of progress. Sarah Chen, ambassador of Earth and director of the Human Protection Zone, looked out at the galaxy she was helping to reshape and smiled. Humanity was finally where it belonged, solving problems, protecting the innocent, and showing the universe that there was always a better way to do things, even if that way made people uncomfortable. especially if it made them uncomfortable.